I don't know what happened to my X feed. For some reason, I don't know if I got a post that's stuck trying to download or upload or something. That might be it. My X feed doesn't want to come up. Mic's on, that's on, live chat, good. All right. What's up, beautiful people? Oh boy. I had me another experience today that reminded me why I don't trust people. Why I keep to my goddamn self. Hang on a second, I fucking misplaced my lighter at some point, apparently. Thought it was in my pocket, not in my pocket. Well, actually, wouldn't need it if my girlfriend wouldn't have taken my... Yo, I'm gonna kick your fucking ass. Damn woman. God damn it, woman. The fuck is my lighter at for real though? Not fucking in here. Are you serious? Why the fuck? Alright, that's always nice. Thanks, Jill, for taking my lighter off the table. The only lighter I had a spark on it. Good thing I have a pack of matches here, huh? Alright. Anyways, alright, moving on. Yes, I'm gonna smoke me a piece of cigarette. I think it's the first time I've ever smoked a cigarette on here. I don't ever smoke really. Smoke one or two a day if I want to, but I don't. I need to get a coil for my stick. It's almost burnt up. It's like right on the verge. There's my lighter. I was gonna say, I thought I had this other. It's sitting right there. It fell down. Not the one I said my girlfriend, but she did take it. I think that's her lighter to begin with. I was just using it. She comes in when I'm asleep though, to feed my dog and take care of the cats and shit like that. So I was supposed to go meet somebody, somebody that's supposed to do me a favor. And 20 minutes out driving, I get a phone call. Oh, never mind. Yeah, scratch that. All right, thanks. 20 minutes. Yeah. I had a nice, fun, fast drive back. I don't get dangerous or act stupid on the road or anything like that, but if I'm by myself and nobody's around, I will spin my tires and squeal them and let out my anger. As long as it's not going to hurt my car. I don't want to fuck my car up. I try to keep myself at least that much sensibility. You know what I mean? But when I'm going like 90 miles an hour, just trying to get the fuck down the road, and you're going like 40 and a 50, yeah, I'm going to go around. I'm not going to do it dangerous or act stupid about it, but as soon as I see a spot, I don't give a shit if there's a dog. I'm going to go around. When I'm in that state of mind, I typically, once I calm down a little bit, like once I got the little bit of speed out, got the lead foot down a little bit, I was fine. You know what I mean? I'm not the asshole that runs up behind you and fucking revs the engine and gets up behind you and acts all stupid. But I am the asshole that if I try to go around you and you want to race me, I will take you on. And I'm not somebody you want to play chicken with, because I'm not going to fuck my car up, but I'm not going to say that it's not going to end up in a situation where your car's not going to get fucked up if that happens. Anyways, I've had some wild shit happen driving, because I used to drive fucking like 100 miles a day, every single day. from morning to night. I'd have to drive down here from where I lived at and get down here. Anyway, I'm all just rambling. So, let's get us a dab set up here on Yoshi. All right. I'm going to take a dab out of, let's use a terp sliver. It's still clean enough. I got to get some alcohol, wipes. And to do that, I have to go out around people. Awful situation. Go around people. Oh my God, not people. Did find me a new coil though. My coil for my Vupu, it's not burnt up, right? It's just, it was pretty black. And I found a brand new one with like nice pretty quartz down in there. And it has 3, what do you call them? Foils, I guess, technically. Yeah. Yeah, 3 coils inside of it instead of 2. I don't know. It burns at the same ohms and the same watts though. I don't know if there's much of a difference. I actually think I was getting better smoke off of the one with 2. Anyway, bud structure, right? That's what I want to talk about. That's what I've got all written up in my descriptions. Bud structure versus micro and macro structure. What the fuck am I even saying? That is the same thing, isn't it? Well, yes, it is if you're thinking in that manner. But what I mean is the difference between structure, as in what is on, should be on the intro screen, or maybe it's, anyway, when you go to click on my live, it shows the picture of the cannabis plant, shows the bract and the pistils and trichomes and all that shit. That is different than, well, I am separating that, differentiating it from the shape of the buds, because the shape of the cannabis buds overall, there is an accepted science, right? Like indica, denser, sativa, fluffier, lighter, more aerated, indica, elongated, and sativa is more like a bulbous nature. So there is that, but it gets, in my opinion, more detailed than that, and you can actually map it out. For example, if you take a sativa and you move it towards indica and you get to 50-50, that structure, there is a structural characteristic that is present throughout sativas that you do that to, as well as indicas that you take towards 50-50 from indica. Meaning that the structural characteristics can hint you if this 50-50 is leaning more sativa, coming from the sativa side, or if the 50-50 was brought down from the indica side, leaning more that direction. Because even though it's 50-50, it's going to have a experiential dominance one way or the other, typically. Cheers. Some guava fig purple punch. You always tell when you got a good low temp, because when the glob gets in there, it'll slow your pearls down. It doesn't melt real quick right away. Good taste. Good taste. This was different too. I've been smoking a lot of terpenoline heavy shit. This one gets me in the chest every time I exhale. Smooth as fuck going in and out. But every time I exhale, like a couple seconds after, it hits you in the chest. It's very bizarre. Usually I get that hit in the chest while I'm holding it in. You know what I mean? Beta Caryophyllene likes to do that. Kick you like a fucking horse from the inside. Gotta let that one sink in. That was a good one. I get this sensation, like whenever it hits and I'm like at the point where I know I'm high, like I'm at, I'm good. You know what I mean? Like if you got a little bit of weed, you don't have enough to quite get there to that point, and just kind of irritates you because you can't actually get high. Once I get to that point, I get this sensation in my chest, and it like spreads. And of course, indica is more relaxing sensation. Sativa kind of ends up like can end up very jittery. Now, I will say the King's Bread and the Cherry Banger, it is a little bit more of the jittery type. It's not jittery. It is more hyped up for sure than the King's Bread. But the King's Bread is fucking amazing. It is like you hit that shit and it opens your lungs up. It's like you're all folded up in a ball or something and it unravels you. Very nice. King's Bread, it's like you're like this. And you hit it, it's just like it opens you up. Like how most weed, like this one, I have to fight not coughing. It gives me, I can still breathe and stuff, but I have to, with that King's Bread, when I take a breath in after hitting it, it's like my lungs just uber expand or something. I don't know. It's just, and it's not just my lungs. It's like my whole body feels that way. It's like, but apparently that's a Jamaican landrace, which is, as I was saying yesterday. But how do you get? I'm suspicious only because how do you get Beta Caryophyllene? Only, but it may speak to support of the fact that, or not the fact, but this what I've been saying lately about is it possible because indica comes from sativa, right? It evolutionarily adapts into indica, sativa does. Is it like did beta caryophyllene, is that an evolutionary adaptation? Okay, obviously it's an evolutionary adaptation. What I'm saying is, does it is because beta caryophyllene, there's two different types, right? Beta and trans caryophyllene. And you don't see beta caryophyllene in sativas that much, but that doesn't necessarily mean that, like maybe it is that the hotter, more arid environment brings out the beta and trans. I don't know. What I'm saying though is that is it possible that beta caryophyllene could indeed be characteristic in sativa, just more of a recessive trait? And I know obviously most of what I have mapped out so far is more complex in that manner, dominant versus recessive. But I don't know that we know enough about cannabis at this point to even like attack somebody for not having that part of it mapped out, because like this part's not even mapped out. So anyway, so yeah, bud structure, right? You've got, when I said this part's not, I'm referring to topological protocol. But bud structure, you got differences in, I didn't realize there was difference in trichomes, for example. There's three different types, three, maybe four. I think three different types of trichomes. Shorter trichome without a bulbous head, shorter trichome with a bulbous head, and a taller trichome with a bulbous head. And then there's differentiation in the color. You got amber color that starts getting on some of the trichomes. What I meant by an evolutionary adaptation, for example, though, is anthocyanin, for example. Would be an evolutionary presentation because it tends to come out in, like I said, with hotter, more arid environments. Anthocyanin tends to, it was that, and there was something else that tended to push anthocyanin to express. I don't remember what it was, or maybe it was like, can't remember exactly. That's the purple color. That's what causes the perps in your schmannabis. Also, you know how some sativas have that like fuzzy look to them, like sort of like white little hairies? Your pistils, the little hairs that get on the pistils are stigma. And then there's also, from what I can tell from all of the pictures that I was looking at, on the tip of a pistil, sometimes you get that little wiry tip on it that kind of looks like what the fuck happened there? Did it start growing weird or something? That is also a stigma. And they help to gather the pollen from the male plants, which is one thing I refer to in terpological protocol as far as structural characteristic in sativas growing, being evolutionarily impacted by the environment of the more humid jungle, right? Jungle environment, humid. Ergo, it would make sense to me that in the desert, pollen would have absolutely no issue blowing around. It has more of an issue getting around in the jungle. It would make sense that in that dense environment, that making an elongated pistil that sticks out and has a little filament on the end to grab stuff, that makes sense. And that makes sense too that you see the stunted pistils in sativa, or indicas rather, right? You see shorter, darker pistils in indicas and longer, brighter pistils in sativa, typically. Not always. Sometimes they're orange in sativa too, but most oftentimes, especially heavy leaning sativas, you get like yellow pistils and difference in the color. That, all of that is different than looking at, as I said, if you have the elongated, aerated, fluffy sativa characteristic bud, that's this characteristic shape of sativa. And then indica is accepted, the characteristic shape of it is a dense, bulbous nug. And pistils I've described, trichomes are typically bigger on indica, more visible through the naked eye, to the naked eye, typically than sativas. However, there are sativas on the market today that have, because of hybridization, that have very visible, sticky, thick, fucking big trichomes. So there's caveats to all of it, yes, but as I said, it's the beginnings of mapping everything out. So yes. So for example, you have that elongated, fluffy structure. As you move towards the 50-50, those sativas that have indica introduced across, that hold on to the sativa expression and move towards 50-50. By the time you get to 50-50, the structure, it has the sort of move towards the three-way split, but it's not very defined. And it almost just looks like there's no shape or anything to it. Like, it's just very obscure shape, even if it maintains fluffiness or if it gets a little bit denser. It's just a very obscure shape. The microstructure kind of like blends together on it, versus when indica, the dense bulbous nut, when it moves towards 50-50, when you introduce sativa into that, what tends to see in the end product is moving from a bulbous nature to elongating the top. At first, it elongates in an equilateral fashion, an attempt at an equilateral fashion. So nature, so it's not perfect, but that's how it starts to fluff up the bud and spread it out. It turns into like a triangle and different. It maintains that triangular shape, but it gets longer, and the closeness of those knots that are in higher indica blends move apart, and you get like an elongated, a little bit denser, slightly fluffy once you move into the 50-50 territory. So there's a difference in the way that the presentation of the overall shape of the buds, depending on the extent to which they lean one way or the other. And maybe I'm not defining it properly by saying come from sativa, but that's just how I see it in my head. Like if you have a spectrum of indica, sativa, and 50-50 in the middle, you go from here to here, that's what happens. If you go from here to here, indica to 50-50, so it takes place. And then obviously that shape, I don't know. Yeah, I was thinking if you continued it up the spectrum, if that what would end that way. I don't know if that would even make sense to do that. But yeah. So there's that. And it really is true. You look it up and check it out. Check out the shapes of buds. Look up the shapes of different buds. Now, you gotta be careful looking up on Google. Some people just post shit that it's not what they say it is. And that happens a lot, especially in the pictures, the images. So let that dab fucking get all cold. That's very good stuff. I like that. I got a baller jar of it. Guava fig, purple punch cross. Smells like fucking chemical factory, honestly. It's crazy the smell of it. Like the first whiff I get of it, I get like a lemony. Like you definitely pick up the lemon in it. And you can tell it's got like a funk to it. But then when you really start smelling it and breaking it open and moving the resin around, that lemonies, it really starts getting like hella glue and like there's a floral nature to it, which is different. It's like a rotten, floral, fruity. Yeah. And this is like, I'm pretty sure this is somewhere near around the 50-50. I started last night at 75-25. Then when I started thinking about it, I was basing that off how heavy the fucking shit was hitting. But then again, the cannabinoids are fairly high. Like that is like sativa presentation of cannabinoid profile. So maybe it like I'm definitely not incorrect about what I've presented about the profile. Like I am confident in that, but I just don't know that. As I said, it's a work in progress. The alpha pinene, beta pinene, that works out, but it works out to that 75 or 70-30 somewhere in there. And then I moved it down to 65-35 when I started thinking about it. I think that's where I left it last night. Because, all right, for example, this is another part of terpological protocols. Even though it doesn't seem like it would transfer and transfer across the board. It does. You don't know why, but it does. So sativa is more complex. Just go with it, accept it. Don't think into it. Yes, they all have a bunch of terpenes, but in its presentation, sativa is more complex, more aromatic, more aromatically vibrant than indica. It is much less aromatically vibrant and complex and different layers to it than is sativa. And that makes sense when you think evolutionarily about it, because sativa develops in the jungle. That is where it developed at. Indica was dropped off as sativa in the Himalayas and developed, micro-adapted into indica in that area somehow. So the complexity of sativa's aromatic profile makes sense when you think about the evolutionary reason for terpenes in cannabis. It is to drive away pests, to make the plant's presence known in that area, essentially, or to mask it in that area, whatever the terpene's purpose is. Driving away insects, blah, blah, blah. So sorry, I was thinking one good example of that, the driving away insects, though, is linalool in indicas. That presentation in indica, linalool is very good at repelling female mosquitoes, and apparently mosquitoes are bad in parts of Afghanistan. So it like lines up, makes sense, right? It also makes sense that in the jungle, where all of that life and all of the competition and all of those things are, that you would have a more complex presentation of everything. And you think about the humidity and the nature of the jungle, that it's at the bottom of the canopy, so it's going to stretch and elongate itself as much as it can to try to get to the sunlight that is available. As I said about the humidity, the elongating and stretching of the overall structure and the microstructure characteristics of it, like the pistils. All that shit makes sense. All of that also transfers over when you're thinking about reading for example, the overall profile of the cannabinoid profile, the presentation, scientific presentation of all of that laid out in a certificate of analysis. So the complexity of the cannabinoid profile, because I am confident that indica presentation and the cannabinoid profile is the simplified presentation, CBGA, CBG, and THC, wherever that's at, THC, THC, just CBGA, CBG, typically, and CBD, yeah, but the presentation, that simple presentation, the more complex, the more shit that gets introduced into the profile. For example, even though CBD is known to be more prevalent in indica, while THC is more prevalent in sativa. Where was I going with that? Oh, yes. When you do see CBD presentation onto the profile, right? Yes, it's expressing that that's indica genetics, more than likely expressing on the profile, but it's also making it more complex. It's also adding to the profile. So, and I know, and just will work with me. The more you add to the profile, the more complex the profile. And this does work out. This does, if you look at many strains, a whole fucking tote full and a bag full, and I don't know, I got like thousands of fucking boxes here. Sativas have more complex presentations of the cannabinoid profile than do indicas. It's a very simple way to fucking say it. And there is an average, in my opinion, presentation of the indica in CBGA, because levels above that also are indicative of sativa. I've been thinking about this quite intensely. CBGA, right? It is the first initial cannabinoid made out of the precursor cannabinoids, geranyl diphosphate and olivetolic acid, right? So just run with this. It would make sense, I believe, that sativas would present with more of that. If that is the natural presentation, natural way that it happens, it makes sense that a microadaptation of sativa may not present with levels as high as the initial nature's blah, whatever, okay? So just run with that. It does end up working out that higher presentations of CBGA in the profile correlates to sativa presentation. The profile being more sativa than not, the weed being more sativa than not, the experience. If you think about that, again, in evolutionary terms, in terms of the presentation in the landrace cannabis, which is how those genetics got there in the first place, CBGA decarbs into CBG. That's presentation of heat and light. I spoke about light and stretching towards the light and the canopy. It would make sense that there would be less decarbing of CBGA in landrace presentation in the endemic environment and sativa. Because, again, desert, open, light, boom, heat. Some terpenes begin flashing over at 90 degrees Fahrenheit. It would not surprise me to find that in like 100, 120 degree fucking heat, or 90 degree heat, 95 degree heat, that you would get decarbing when you're right in the fucking direct sunlight. More decarbing. So lower levels of CBGA, and also the later present, like it comes from sativa. Yes. I think. I think a lot. That's what I do. I think a whole hell of a lot. And I think a whole hell of a lot about cannabis. What was going on? What did I say last night about Indiana? Something happened in Indiana. Fucking. The Delta 8, Delta 9 thing. I think I put that on. I don't know if I said it about last night or if I put it on locals. Indiana prosecutors are going after the fucking Delta 9 presentation in the shops from the hemp market. Because it is all because of the FDA and their semantic attempt at defining hemp out of the Controlled Substances Act. And for some fucking reason, I don't know if they really didn't know this, but for some reason, THCA wasn't mentioned. So you learn how to advance THCA, just like the Stanley brothers learned how to decrease THC and increase CBD. Like, we know more about that shit now. So I don't know to what extent you can increase THCA, but to whatever extent that may be, you have the ability then to compete with the state legal markets as a federally legalized, therefore state legal, technically, like cannabis market. And you're presenting Delta 9 onto the market like, and selling it as that THCA Delta 9. Like, you can go into the head shops and find it, and convenience stores and shit. And it does say, yes, I will tell you, it does say less than 0.3%. And this is where people are like, you don't fucking talking about it. This is less than 0. Yeah, it does say that, right? But it also tells you that milligrams are in there. That's what's important. It doesn't matter if it's less than 0.03%. That's what that means is that's the essentially pre-harvest levels or post-harvest levels, but before the THCA is decarbed. All they measure is the Delta 9. And the Delta 9 level doesn't have to correlate to the THCA level. And then the THCA decarbs and turns into Delta 9 when you either use it and heat it up to bake it in a product, or that turns the THCA into THC, or you smoke it, right? So the same thing, or vaporize it as a dab. So, yeah, there's all that. So the prosecutors are going after, like, they're giving the stores a certain amount of time. This is what's going on. They're giving the stores a deadline to get the shit off the shelves. Essentially the same thing happened with spice, except it's just like on more localized levels. I guess it, like in the states where we're legal, I don't think anything's like, I know the cannabis industry themselves are pissed off about it, and they were, I don't know what's happening currently, but we're suing the hemp industry because of all of this shit. Because if you pay $1.25 million for a license and then somebody else gets to pay, like, I don't agree with that, because that is industrialization of the market from the get-go. I don't agree with that at all. I like the federalized approach to it because it at least somebody could fucking afford to do that approach to it. When you allow industry to come in, there's so many financial barriers that get set up intentionally so that the industry doesn't have any competition from what they know would most certainly be their motherfucking competition, because it's the motherfuckers that have been running the shit for the past 60 fucking years. So they don't want that. They're afraid of that. That's why they're like, no competition, no open market, no. And the thing is, I'm getting off track here, but yeah, the thing is, people are so, I think it's a social thing. It's a cultural thing, I guess. I don't know. Because we have spent so long not being able to even speak about using cannabis, everybody is groveling in thanks over the ability to use, and allowing a huge transfer of wealth to just go to the rich. And that's one of the reasons I get so passionate about the legalization shit, because it's definitely not okay that industries are claiming patents on strains. They're claiming fucking, like, unless they go back to landrace genetics and develop that shit from landrace base, why in the fuck are they getting patents on strains? That doesn't make any sense to me at all. I don't care if they back, like, it doesn't make any fucking sense. Yeah. Especially, like, when you think about it, when you think about the fact that, yes, I know some of these people got to get into the market, make money on the market. Some of them did not. Some of them are still fucking in and out of jail. But you can find the stories of people that are still alive that created strains during the illicit market, and how shit happened back then, not too long ago here. But like I said, yes, some of them, many of them who you hear the stories about, did make it into the market in some way or another. I've heard some people told me though that California is even worse than Maryland as far as letting people into the market, which that fucking really blows my mind because like how much worse could it really be? Like I guess yeah, maybe I know they have a lot worse taxes as far as that's concerned. That's for sure. Maybe that's what it is because those are big fucking numbers. You get numbers that big and start talking about taxes. That's yeah, that's probably what it is. One of the things. I need fucking dab. This is some good resin batter. Good batter, butter, purple punch. Doesn't say on there. Baller jar batter. 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 It's batter. How come some of them are spelled batter and some of them are spelled batter? Is there a difference? I know that I've seen differences in batter, whatever the fucking difference in the spelling is. Like some is more granulated, some is like this and has absolutely no granulation. And it's just like a nice smooth fucking super smooth consistency. If you let it sit for long enough that wherever the concave areas are, you'll get fucking terp sap puddles in there. Good shit. You gotta watch those. Sometimes they get fucking dried out on you from the dispensary. They replaced. Got shout out to fucking Apothecary because they did replace it with half. And they replaced two of them actually because I took it. They let me take it back, and that was really chill. And then they so gave me another one of the same thing, and they checked it before I walked out, and it was fucked up too. Or no, they didn't check that one before I walked out. I walked out, and it was messed up. Like as soon as I sit down in the car and looked at it, I walked back in, and then they gave me that was the last one of that one, so they gave me a different one and checked it, and it was messed up. It wasn't messed up. Excuse me. It was a different one. That's how that went. So I guess I got whatever one I got, but there was only one left on the shelf whenever I swapped it out, and that one was also bad. Bad as far as got exposed to heat at some point somehow and swelled up. It's still technically smokable. Like there's nothing wrong with smoking it. It's just it was fucking dry on the bottom of the fairly dry, and most of the terp sauce was gone out of it. Cheers. A little bit too hot. That's really good shit. I bet you that weed tastes really fucking good. I bet you that weed tastes like some it was old school good shit. I bet you. And for any haters out there, no, I don't smoke like this all the time. I take many dabs. Actually, I've only taken a couple dabs. I don't know why people say that sometimes. I only take like 2 or 3 dabs. I mean, they're reasonable sized dabs, but like, I just struck them out. I get my smoke's worth out of them. And I know how the fuck they melt in the banger and how they end up in the banger. I have analyzed it thoroughly. As thoroughly as I can with my naked eye. And the zoom did camera. I want to get one of those little microscopic cameras that fucking zoom in like a microscope you plug it in your phone shit. Be badass for when you grow weed. I don't have any growing right now. Yeah. I'm gonna heat that up one more time. Mm-hmm. Bet you should look at me in the face the whole fucking time. I don't know why, I just noticed that. Oh, take it easy, people. This charger sucks. I'll run my phone dead.